So I really wasn't planning to talk about this on the podcast this morning, but then I had a conversation with my children early this morning, and I was telling them about what I'm about to talk about on the podcast today. And I just thought, I think it'd be a good thing to share this on the podcast too. I was narrating my experience over the weekend with my kids, and it was a pretty interesting weekend. And I just want to share it with somebody listening to the podcast today. Now, I've been having this challenge with sinus congestion for a while, for years now. It started slowly, and over the years, it's just something that has I've had to deal with from time to time, especially when I stay in a very cold place, a place that is not well ventilated, or the AC, the air conditioning is not well positioned. I realized that before I know it, my sinuses would begin to get clogged, and it can be a very frustrating feeling for those people that kind of deal with sinus congestion. It's very frustrating because it affects your sight, it affects your ability to think clearly. You just feel like, especially with thinking, you feel like your thoughts are you are trying to get your thoughts out through a pinhole. It just feels like everything is clogged, and it's just a little pinhole for things to get out of. So it's very, very hard for you to think clearly. You just have this feeling of confusion. You sometimes would have a feeling of dizziness, disorientation. It comes with headaches sometimes, some very nagging headaches, just a slight pressure above your nose, in between your eyes. Um, it can be a pretty frustrating thing, and I had that over the weekend. I think it started on Friday. On Friday, I realized I had sinus issues, or maybe it was before Friday. But whenever I have sinus issues, I try to use nasal drops, um, or sometimes steam. So I found myself steaming on Friday, and I got some temporary relief. But before I knew it again, I had this same sinus congestion. So it was just this feeling of just a clogged mind, a clogged system, and it was beginning to affect my eyes. You won't be able you try to focus to read. You can't see clearly. You're trying to focus to read and to see, and so it was very frustrating. Friday was very frustrating day. Saturday was not much different, but I found myself doing a lot of steam inhalation. This would help for a couple of hours, but then before I knew it, it would come back again. I would just have that feeling of disorientation. And then I tried using eucalyptus oil, which I used from time to time too. That gave short relief, but before I knew it, it was back again. So we got to Sunday, and I'd struggled through Friday and through Saturday. And on Sunday, after church, we decided to visit my parents. And so I got there, I wasn't in the best of moods in terms of how I was feeling. So I just went into the room and I just laid down. A lot of times when I feel like that, I want to get away from activity, from noise, from talking, because it's so hard to think and concentrate. So I just want time to myself. So I took some time to myself, and I was just indoors. And after a while, when I came back out, um, my dad had expressed his intention to go out and cut his hair. And so he was going to the barber's place, and I was about leaving. And then, when it was just about leaving, I had a prompting, told me, Tola, go out with your dad and just keep him company at the barber's place. Now, I was in no mood to keep anybody company because I wasn't even enjoying my company. Not talk about keeping company with my dad. He was going to try to have conversations. And here was I was in this position where the last thing I wanted to have was a conversation. The last thing I wanted to have was anybody's company, just I just wanted to be alone and just resolve these sinus issues. And I was not praying to God, God, take the sinus issues away and just give me relief, because I've been having this thing this third day right now. And, and at that point, I'd already made up my mind that on our way back home from my parents' place, I'll stop by the pharmacy and get an actual drug that I could use for my sinuses. Um, so I made up my mind that this wasn't working by any of these home remedies. They weren't giving me lasting relief. So I just said I would go to the pharmacy. So for me, that was the sensible thing to do. If you want to be productive, you need to go to the pharmacy, get these drugs, get over and done with this thing. So my dad saying he was going to the barbers was not something I intended to do. I didn't want to go with him to keep him company. I just needed time to myself and, struggle through that visit. But as he kept on moving towards the door, this this prompting got stronger and stronger. Follow him, go with him, go with him. It's not something I usually do. I don't think it's something I've ever done before. Go to the barbers with my dad. I didn't need to cut my hair. He was the one needing to cut his hair. And he got to the door, and I went to the door with him, and I was just still saying I'm not going to go with him. I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the frame of mind. And then he went down the stairs, but I remained at the top of the stairs, and I just saw him going. And then he got to the car, and he opened the door of the car. And when he opened the door of the car, the prompting was so loud. It was so loud within my spirit. I said, he's about to go. You need to tell him you want to go with him now. And I just told him, Dad, you want me to come with you? And he said, sure, if you want to. If you want to. That was not the answer I wanted to hear, because I didn't really want to. But then the Spirit said, that means yes. And I just said, okay. And I went to get prepared, got my shoes, and we went off. I didn't even, it was something so unplanned. I didn't tell other people that I was going to the barbering salon with him. I really didn't. So I got into the car, and here we were on this trip to the barber shop that I didn't plan for. And I was still feeling, I'm not in the best mood right now. I need to get my sinuses cleared. And so we went to this barber shop. I wasn't too far, you understand, it's like a 5-minute drive or so. And when we got there, he took a seat, and I sat down right beside him, and we started having small talk. And while we spoke about some pretty interesting things. Some pretty interesting things. And I realized that I started to feel better. But I didn't even know it then that I started to feel better. But I started to feel better. And by the time my dad was done, I realized I was feeling so good. I felt so good. And I didn't even realize that I had relief from the sinus congestion. And I got into the car on our way back home, and I was feeling so good. And then we got back to the house, and here I was, sinus congestion gone. Totally. I went the entire night, no sinus congestion. I didn't need to stop by the pharmacy to buy anything. I didn't need to do any steam inhalation, nothing. And the reason why I'm deciding to share this morning is I just thought, or maybe I wake up this morning and it will be there again. And I'm up this morning, and I'm fine. I'm fine. I feel great. I feel clear. I can think. I was thinking to myself yesterday, I was thinking, how will I do today's podcast? I'm not sure I want to do the podcast in the midst of this sinus thing. I've had to push through it, on Friday, and that was so hard to do. I'm not sure I'll do it on Monday, maybe when I feel better. But now I feel so clear. Thinking clearly, I'm seeing clearly, no headaches. And I thought about it. How does that happen? What did going out with my dad have to do with clearing my sinus? Why? Those things don't match. And this is where I really want to talk about 3 ways in which we can live our lives as people. There are 3 basic expressions we can have, or 3 basic attitudes we can have towards life. 3. We can live our life stupidly. We can live our life stupidly. What that means is we continue to make very, very bad decisions that cause us harm and cause other people harm. Stupidity is rooted in not just bad decisions, but destructive decisions. Stupidity comes with destruction and harm. You understand? So, what is stupid brings harm. Stupidity is not benign, it destroys. It's such a strong thing that people take for granted. It's not benign, it's very malignant. Act of stupidity, very malignant. It's very important that we as people, as much as possible, avoid stupidity. We must avoid stupid actions and avoid stupid people. Because stupid people bring destruction. So stupidity is not benign at all. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. But we can live our lives stupidly. It's unfortunate that a lot of things we do are stupid, but we think they are not. We just think, there are things we could excuse, but they're stupid. That's the problem with, when you spend so much time on an activity like social media throughout your day. It's a stupid thing because it destroys your relationships, it destroys your perspective of life, it destroys your earning power sometimes. It can destroy your whole day where you are not doing anything constructive. So you spend a lot of time scrolling on social media. Before you know it, what you intended to do that day, you couldn't do anymore. You destroyed your own plan for the day. So stupidity is something we engage in, but we don't know how terrible it is. When I drive, it's always interesting to see how many people I see on the phone on the highway while driving. It's a very stupid thing. Very stupid. Just that, okay, let me just quickly reply this message. I can see I'm on the highway. In front of me is clear. So I see people actually texting while on the highway, while driving. This stupid thing. Because that very action could take your life or take someone else's life or take your life and other people's lives. It could maim you. It could render you paralyzed. It could plunge a lot of people into sadness. Just that action of, let me just reply this message. Stupid. Stupidity. We could express our lives stupidly. That's when you make decisions that are destructive. The second way in which we can express our lives is strategically. Strategically. This is when we live our lives with carefully thought, intentional actions. Carefully thought, carefully planned, careful projections, intentionally. It's a good way to live your life. It is. It's a proactive way to live your life. Someone who is strategic holds on to sense. The person builds a life around common sense, which is not very common, but sense. Rooted in sense. Is it sensible? Does it make sense to do this? The strategic life, that's what it means. Well thought out, intentional action to bring about good results. Strategic living. Some people are very strategic about their time, very strategic about their money, very strategic about their relationships. It's a good way to live. It's intentional. It's a good way to live. But the best way to live as a human being is to live spiritually. To be spiritually minded is the best way, but not the most common. A lot of people shockingly live stupidly. That's the truth. A lot of people will not want to admit it, But if you told them to give you an analysis of their day and they broke it down, their activities, their words, their relationship, a lot of it, not only can they not account for, a lot of it is destructive. And they are not breaking from it. Their habits, everything is stupid. A lot of people live stupidly. More people than would care to admit. We have a good number of people that live strategically. They are not as much as the people that live stupidly. That's why this world, you need to be very careful. There are more stupid people out there than we would care to admit. You understand? There are more stupid people out there. So you need to be very careful. You need to be very careful. When you're in a bus, chances are the driver is still a stupid person. Chances are. A lot of the accidents we see with commuter accidents, public transport, stupid drivers. Stupid drivers. You understand? That's it. Waste the lives of people. I remember there was this I don't know where this happened. I don't know whether it was in China, but so there was I think it was in China. I saw it once on one of the social media platforms, and it was trended on news for a very long time. There was a woman in a bus, and I think the bus had missed her bus stop, so she was very upset with the driver. And the driver, while still on the bus with other people, started to beat the driver with her handbag, hit the driver, and driver, trying to get away from her, rode the bus off a bridge, killed every single person. Stupidity. There are people like that. They enter buses with you. They live in apartment buildings with you. They are living right under you. You understand? Or right above you, or right beside you. Stupid decision. Stupid. You understand? We need to be very careful. There are so many of them. But then there are strategic people too. And a lot of people are intentional, have become intentional about their lives. They're strategic. But there are a few people that are spiritual. But this is the best way to live your life. But you know why a lot of people are not spiritual? Because sometimes spirituality involves doing the silly. This is the problem with spirituality. That's what a lot of people have. Silly. You know what silly is? Silly is different from stupid. Silly is that thing you do, you don't understand why you're doing it. You understand? It doesn't make good sense. It doesn't add up. It's not destructive, but it's not strategic. It doesn't add up. It seems childish. It will make people laugh at you, and you would laugh at yourself. It makes you feel a little bit odd. Silly. A lot of spirituality is silliness. And this is where people get uncomfortable with spirituality. Silliness. When you read the Bible, a lot of things, you read the right life of Jesus, a lot of things he did were silly at the onset. Wine runs out at a party and he tells them, go fill the jars with water. That is a silly thing to do. Not a stupid thing. What a stupid thing would be go and fill the wine with glass with water and then put cyanide inside. That's destructive. You understand? That's stupid. But they asked them to do a silly thing that was deeply spiritual. Put water in the jars to get wine. That didn't make no sense. That didn't make sense. That to the people must have seemed like a waste of energy. Waste of energy. There was spiritual action. And it got them the result. And I'll come to the result very soon. But there are other parts of the Bible where you see, other parts, the Bible is full of silly things. Old Testament, New Testament. There's part in the Old Testament, a man lost his axe head. A prophet told him, you want to get your axe head? Throw a stick into the water. Through the stick, the axe head came up. This is silly. Totally silly. Do you understand? Silly, ridiculous. You understand? Silly. So the Bible is full of so-called silly things. Jesus wanted to feed a crowd, thousands of people. Thousands of people. And then he said, give me a boy's lunch. A boy gave his lunch and was like, oh, thank you, that's good enough. A boy's lunch, one boy lunch was what all he needed to feed thousands of people. Silly. On a good day, that boy should be sent away. Say you don't have anything to contribute. What you're talking right now is silly. You're giving us your lunch. We say you want to feed a multitude. You're giving us your lunch. That's a silly thing. But Jesus went with it because it was deeply spiritual. So many parts of the Bible. Silliness is a key element of spirituality, because silliness is doing that which doesn't add up, doesn't make sense, feels odd, it's unpopular, childish, naive. But if I want to tell you about the results, when you do strategic, you get good results. When you do spiritual, you get astounding results. And that's why we realize that if Jesus had done strategic with them and they went to like maybe borrow money to buy wine, all they would have gotten was wine that was as good as the wine that had finished. But when they did the spiritual, which was silly, fill the jars with water, what they got was wine that they couldn't describe the taste. It was way better than the old wine. Way better. If they had done the strategic in feeding the multitude, let's say it was possible for them to gather a year's wages, they would have gotten just enough for people to eat. But because they did the spiritual, the silly, took a young boy's lunch and fed a multitude. They fed the multitude and everybody was full and they had left over. Outstanding results. You see, what I did with my dad yesterday was silly. Didn't make sense. Didn't make sense. You have sinus issues. You need to be doing hot compress upon your nose. Nasal saline drops. Steam inhalation. Eucalyptus oil. That is what you need to be doing. That is strategic. That makes sense. That will give you the result. It was silly for me to go and be spending time with somebody, keeping them company, when it was even hard for me to even hear what they were saying. When it was even hard for me to contribute to the conversation. I was silly. But it gave results. Because every time I did the steam inhalation and stuff, it would give me hours of relief. Maybe about 3-4 hours. But now here I've gone several hours, I've slept, I've woken up. Astounding results. I want to tell someone listening to this today. There is a level above strategic that is called spiritual. But then it's going to require of you to surrender to the silly. It takes a lot of humility to surrender to the silly. Because we as human beings are sensible creatures. We pride ourselves in our intellect, our ability to rationalize, our ability to think through problems. That's been the human pride for a very long time. Spirituality challenges that. And that is why children are way more spiritual than adults. Because they have not totally embraced intellectualism. Children are still silly. 90% of the time, silly, naive, playful, not thinking of strategy. That is why they are so spiritual. I tell people, if you want to get to the core of something, go to children. You want to get good feedback, heavenly feedback, go to children. We spend a lot of time with our elders, which is not a bad thing. Elders are good, you understand? They've made mistakes and they teach us from their mistakes. But children, they are raw, direct funnels from heaven. If God wants to talk to you directly, children, we don't understand. A society that takes care of its children will always be blessed. A society that ignores its children would always suffer. Would always suffer. Unfortunately, the African society is like that. We don't protect or take care of our children. Children come last. Children come last. We must take care of children. Children first. Then women. Those two beings, their energy, have it right. The blessings that come from them, incredible. But a lot of societies are misogynistic. Men take care of themselves first, then trickles down to the women, then the children, whatever they can get, whatever left over, can never be blessed. Can never. Children first. Raw funnels from heaven. Then women. Women are very spiritual beings. They're very spiritual beings. When they hold on to spirituality, it's in another level. You understand? Another level. They commit themselves to it. But then, what I'm trying to say is not only are we trying to avoid stupid, we are trying to move above strategy and begin to surrender to spirituality. I'm so humbled by what happened yesterday. So humbled. So humbled. Because here I was thinking, when I go to the pharmacy, what drugs will I get? So here I was trying to go to Google, best drugs for sinus issues. I would have gone there, you understand? And it would have cost me a lot. But then I would have felt, okay, I'm dealing with this problem. But here I was, free solution. But it wasn't the 1 + 1 I've been taught. It was silly. But then it was deeply spiritual. I do not know what happened. I don't know what it was. I do not know what it was. I don't know. I don't know. Was it an energy my dad had? I don't know. Was it an energy in the barbing salon? Did they spray something in the air? I don't know. But I know it worked. It reminds me of a story in the Bible. Jesus healed a man from blindness, and they were asking him, how did he do? He said, I don't know. Stop asking me questions. All I know is that I couldn't see, and now I can see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the strategy he used. You see, when people keep on saying, how, teach me, how does that? I don't know. That's this incredible thing about spirituality. You do not know. You are a victim of it. You're a victim, not an orchestrator. You can orchestrate strategy. You are a victim of spirituality. Some of you right now are looking to God for something. You've been praying for days, for months, for years, but then God is whispering into your mind something silly that you've been ignoring because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So God has been telling you, do this, call this person, give this person, write this. Something. The problem, what we call silly a lot of times. Why we call it silly is because it doesn't benefit us per se. Not because it doesn't make sense. But a lot of times what we call sense is something that has us in the center. Something we can get something out of. That's what man calls sense. What we call silly is something that doesn't, is inconsequential to us, doesn't involve us. And that's why we call it silly. We write it off. What do I gain out of this? What do I get out of this directly? That's why a lot of people do not hear from God. But I'll tell you how you can know some of these silly things that are deeply spiritual. Number one is a good thing. That thing you are being asked to do is a good thing, not a bad thing. It's not destructive. It doesn't bring harm to anybody. It's a good thing. Number two, it doesn't have you in it. It doesn't have you in it. Nothing for you. It seems that there's nothing for you to gain from it. It puts someone else or a group of other people in the spotlight apart from you. This is a very awkward position for the human being. That I'm thinking of something where I am not the spotlight or the center of attraction, for us defies sense. That doesn't make sense. That's the second way. And the third way, most times, it nags. Doesn't go away. With me and my dad, I couldn't control. It was nagging. Doesn't just tell you once. Tell you a second time, a third time. It's there. It's nagging. It's nagging. It's not a one-time opportunity. You cannot even claim that you didn't hear it the first time, because there's a second, third, fourth, fifth time. Some of you heard it the 100th time this year. The 100th time, that silly thing, but you haven't done it. You're still strategizing. You would get from your strategy, but you will get just enough. You get just enough, and it might cost you a whole lot. So strategy balances out things a lot of times. Spirituality is a very, very terrible equation. It doesn't balance out. It's overwhelming. How can you give one lunch and get 12 baskets full? One hamper. In fact, the boys' lunch wasn't the hamper. It was small basket. Small basket. And you got 12 full giant basket full. I want to encourage someone today to lean into spirituality. Spirituality is not this sense of religion, which is what I was trying to tell my kids today. It's not about religion. A lot of things we even learn in religion is very strategic. Unfortunately, religion, which is meant to help us to be more spiritual, has made us more strategic human beings. What was that? Strategic. You understand? No, I believe spirituality is much deeper than a sense of religion. It's an awareness of God. It's a surrender to the silly. It's a seeing others over yourself. Some of you, that's where the answer to your problem is. But we have this mentality of it has to be the way I have been taught. It has to make sense to me first. Some of you don't understand that the answer to your money problems is not in putting money somewhere. It might be in hanging out with somebody. The answer to your work problems might not be writing more CVs. It might be going out or putting out more CVs. It might be going out to play with more children. And the thing is that we must not get strategic with spirituality also. So I see a lot of people, they try to cage spirituality into a strategic concept. So what I'm trying to say is, when Jesus went to that wedding and the wine ran out, he told them to fill the jars with water. And it turned into wine. But that didn't become a winemaking concept for the rest of history. If you do it now, it wouldn't change to wine. You see, when you try to turn spirituality into a strategy, it will always fail. And I see people do that. They're like, and this is the problem with religion. This is the problem with religion. We do not preach, or a lot of preachers do not preach spirituality. They preach spirituality as a strategy. So a preacher will tell you, I did this, so everybody needs to start doing this now to get this result. And then people complain that it doesn't work for them. Because spirituality is individualistic part-time. You cannot cage spirituality into a concept we save. That now becomes a strategy. It now begins to make sense. That's not how it works. So what I'm trying to say is, now I don't have sinus congestion anymore. It might be another 2 weeks I have sinus congestion again. It will be strategic for me to now say I'm going to hang around with my dad. Let's go to the barbing salon. It has become a strategy, and it's no longer spiritual because it doesn't feel silly anymore. It now makes sense. Don't turn the spiritual into a strategy. That doesn't open you up to spirituality anymore. The next time I do have a sinus, if I do, you understand, the next time I do have it, if I do have it, what might be laid on my spirit will be steam inhalation or taking the drops or something like that. But you need to always be open. Always be open. I really feel someone needs to learn this. Someone needs to hear this going into the new week. Someone has been stuck in one gear because they've been afraid of the silly. You've held on too much to sense. Somebody has held on to stupidity too long. Stupidity. You know that thing you're doing is destructive. You keep doing it. That's terrible. I'm telling you, you can go from stupidity straight to spirituality. It's not a 3-step course. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have to be. I'm telling you, go for the best life now. Go for the best life. Don't settle for a good life. Definitely don't settle for a terrible, stupid life. There are some relationships you need to cut. Someone listening to me right now, you know there's a friend causing you to do all manner of destructive things. So you're thinking, oh, they've been my friend for years. They make me laugh. But then they're bringing destruction to your life. Some of them, it's a relationship, a boyfriend, a girlfriend. And like, what do I do now? We've been dating for 5 years. I just promised to marry her. I just accepted to marry him. Don't hang out with stupidity. Stupidity is not benign, it's malignant. It destroys, it aims to kill you. Spirituality sometimes feels odd, feels uncomfortable, feels silly. But it's the best life we can live. My name is Tola T.A. Alabi, and this is the TA Podcast.